All right, sup fellow citizens, welcome back to the Path of Rage and our weekly Star Citizen info coverage. We got a fair bit to go over today. 4.0 went to Evocait. There was a new server meshing test. 3.24.2 has gone out to all backers. And last week, right after I published my episode on Tuesday, they also released the new Zeus to the Evocait and now available in Wave 1 and on. Don't know if it's available to everybody, but in any case, we've got a lot to go over in this episode, so sit back, relax, grab your drink, and let's get into it. First things first, and not to bury the lead, 4.0 went to Evocait this Sunday. Now, it was still based kind of on the 3.24 code base, but it was basically the Pyro playground that we saw earlier in the year. It was all of Stanton, it was all of what was available so far in Pyro, and the jump point connecting the two of them. Now, experiences for players at Evocait in this build were very much mixed. I was having my own experience, other people were having theirs. I will relay my own at the end as I get into what I was hearing about during the test itself while monitoring the in-game global chat and the Evocait chat. First things first, we'll get this one out of the way because it's super quick. The fuel prices in this build were absolutely ridiculous for quantum fuel. Millions and millions of dollars for, jumping to the closest planets. CIG has confirmed that that is a bug. That will not be the case for 4.0. This build did, however, see one thing different from the prior Pyro Playground, and that's the addition of the contested zones that we saw in earlier Inside Star Citizen videos this year. I didn't get there myself, but from what I saw in the chats, these areas are huge. They have environmental puzzles, just like the videos and CIG has said we're going. The loot table is apparently still the Stanton loot table, so I don't know anything about that. But again, this is just for now. 4.0 isn't due to come out until the end of the year. Of course, the rest of Pyro was also in there. And again, the jump point was up and working and available. Now, from what I was reading in the chats, again, people who started in Pyro and were exploring Pyro, not worrying about jumping to Stanton or anything like that, they were having a good time, fairly bug-free. I have to admit, aside from a couple of exceptions, this Evocait patch ran quite smoothly for me. Aside from a few niggling things here or there, they were finding things working quite well in Pyro. NPCs, doing their usual thing, but shops worked, all of that stuff. Pyro itself was working well. Same with Stanton. The entire patch was fairly stable up until close to the end. Now, where things really changed for most of the players, including myself, were at the jump points. I decided that that would be my focus in the 2-hour time frame that we had for this early build. For me, the experience with the jump gates was a crash to desktop every time I got within a certain range of the jump point, aside from once where I just couldn't enter the jump point at all. In both instances, I watched other people going through it and coming out of it. And in both of the chats, people were talking about going through the jump point tunnel, the quantum tunnel, and it being an awesome experience. The graphics and the sound effects are in. A lot of people were getting kicked out. It was apparently hard to stay in it at first, but once you got past the initial hurdle, again, just from what I've read, the pathway through the quantum tunnel took about 2 minutes and was awesome. But to quote numerous people in the chats repeatedly, that was awesome, was what I kept reading. Multiple people said that they were able to move easily back and forth between the jump points. Other people were only able to make it through once and then never again. And then there were people like me that in the 2 hours that I was in this test, I did nothing but try to get through that jump point and continually crash to desktop. They were gathering data about it that was kind of the point. I figured that instead of going around Stanton or spawning in Pyro and checking out the playground area, like the stuff in the system that we knew was already working from before, I would focus on that jump point because it's such a key thing. And again, for me, it did not work. Literal crash to desktop every time I got within a certain range of the jump point. But again, I would watch other players coming and going through the jump point while that was happening to me. And again, they were saying in the chats it was working for them, others it wasn't. Of course, that's the way these builds go. But from those who it was working for, apparently it was awesome. So I think 4.0 is on a good trajectory to be released by the end of this year. Will it? I can't say for sure. Nobody knows. This is CIG time. But I think we have a good chance at it. And if not at the end of this year, within the first couple of months of next year. So things are looking good for that. Now, last week there was also a server meshing test, and that one went quite well. That one was actually quite smooth overall until we got up to higher player counts or whatnot with 1,000 people on each or something like that. But anyway, popped up here in the background is Benoit Beausejour's after action report for how this went. You can see that this included 2 major hybrid crash fixes that were what I was talking about from the last test that they put out, was hitting everybody on that. Other optimizations were underway but didn't make their way into this build, and the test was to measure the behavior of the hybrid at 1,000 player concurrency. They had 1 new crash that was encountered shortly after the initial launch, but they were easily able to fix that, or at least turn it off according to this, and continue on with the test. They were able to get more opportunities for optimization discovered, and their key measurements that they were taking that were showing better stability and progress even at higher numbers. And even though things weren't working quite perfectly, they wanted to push the test further and push to 2,000 concurrent players to measure the stability of it, and that got rough as more and more players were added to the server. But to be fair, while the numbers were getting up there and over the 1,000 players on the server point, I was actually having an okay time. Things were working well. Missions were disabled and all that kind of stuff. This was just a server meshing tech, but it was working. It was feeling smooth. It was good. This test showed to them that there's waits for halves when people are spawning in, there's that many people on the server, so they're looking at possibly a queuing mechanism or something to fix that. They couldn't discover the cause of this, but there was a problem with the ASOP terminals that looked like they were stuck and waiting for ships and hangars to be unstowed. Again, they don't know why, so they're investigating that further. This one here I was part of. A game server with 400 players went through a successful server crash recovery. The team cheered. I'm not surprised at that. I usually on these server meshing tests with that many people, the server doesn't recover. This time it did. I was not expecting it. I can't remember exactly how long it was. It wasn't super long. It wasn't short either, but it wasn't super long. But I remember when the server recovered, I was shocked. It was really good to see. After making a couple other observations or whatnot, they scaled it back to 6 servers and 800 players for the entire system and left it running for 8 hours. Now, this is the last build on the 3.24 tech preview, and after this we'll be back to the main 4.0. And again, what I was just saying about 4.0, that gives me hope. They start putting these 2 streams, dev streams together, I think we're going to see some good things. So overall, this test was very much a success. Now on Sunday, they released a new version of 3.24.2 to all backers that had a new event called Save Stanton, I believe. The first 2 phases that they wanted to test out. And as of the recording of this video, there is a new build of that PTU patch scheduled to come out tonight. I have not been able to jump into either of these because I'm currently dealing with a bout of food poisoning from a restaurant last night. So I will let you know how that one went in the following updates. And finally, they put out the Zeus CL and the ES, the cargo and the exploration variants of this ship. Now, this is a ship designed to compete with the Cutlass Black, the Misk Freelancer, other ships like that. They're not starter ships. They're 3-man crew ships. They're very versatile, very useful. I think, quite honestly, the Cutlass Black is probably the most versatile ship in the entire game. Fight me in the comments if you disagree. And the Zeus is a little bit of a step around that. I think in certain ways, depending on the variant you go with, so in some ways they're better or worse than the Cutlass, and this will be very much up to players' individual style. Now, while you're listening to this and watching this video, I've obviously got footage of both of these variants going in the background. They are pretty much the same ship in every aspect save one. One of them has far more cargo than the other. I think the weapon loadouts are pretty much the same thing. That's not something at the moment that I'm overly interested in. I'll pay attention more when the ships are finalized, but comparing it to a Cutlass Black, the EL version, the exploration version, has less cargo space than the Cutlass. It has a bigger living area, so like sleeping quarters and kitchen area, than the cargo version, the CL. And then they have a great cockpit, both of which have a fantastic view out the front, and I can only hope that this type of view without the blocking struts in the middle and all that is what they propagate through the rest of their reworks in the RSI ship engine pipeline, because this view is fantastic. The cargo version also comes with a tractor beam for cargo. It's got a fair bit of range. It is quite useful. The ES, I didn't see it, didn't have this. I think this works rather well. Though with this ship, you might not need an Atlas for some of the bigger boxes, although even though the CL carries much more cargo than a Cutlass Black, you have to stack it in a certain way because of the angles of the ship roof and whatnot. You're going to be playing jigsaw Tetris with your cargo on the Zeus CL more so than you might say with the Cutlass Black, or especially a Freelancer, which is an open, straightforward bay. In any case, as much as I like my Cutlass Black, I'm thinking that this is going to end up being my daily driver. Once they put this into the game, for me to earn through credits or whatnot, again, I've put my money into Star Citizen, and that's as far as it's going to go. I'm not continuing to buy new ships over and over again. But once this one's in the game and available to grind out the credits to purchase in game, this is absolutely going to be my daily driver, probably the cargo version. I like this ship a lot. I look forward to using it in the verse more than I've been getting to right now, actually putting it to use, not just testing very unstable builds. But in any case, that is our episode for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and thought I did a good job, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to help me grow the channel. Sound off in the comments below and let me know your thoughts. What do you think of the Zeus, honestly, especially if you're a Cutlass owner? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And until next time, I've been Rage at Games, and I will see you in the verse. Bye-bye.